Hi everyone, I'm Bob and I'm renovating this 1973 Egg Harbor Sportfish boat. Well, hello everyone. This episode was originally going to have more work done on those aft hatches that I worked on in the last episode, getting the plywood and fiberglass on those. But there was one project I had to take care of before I could finish off those hatches, and it was something that was bugging me for a while. And it was the way I attached the center deck assembly to the side deck assemblies. If you've been following along, you may know what I'm talking about. If not, you may have to go back and look at some older videos. But basically I was just through bolting them through two pieces of wood. So it was going to require some shims and different things to actually tighten it up. And I didn't like it. I never really liked it, and I had to try to figure out a way to fix it. So I figured out a way. It meant taking the whole thing off and cutting it up a little bit on the ends and making some brackets and things like that. So that's what this episode is going to cover, that work I did. Now, next episode we'll be back on the hatches, and we'll get those fiberglass and plywood and all that. But this one, no, we're just going to be redoing something I already did. So, yeah, that's how it goes on the boat. Alright, so the steel you're looking at here is what I'm actually going to use to make these brackets to hold on center frame back at the boat. Now, normally this is 3/16 stainless steel, 2.5 inch angle. I think it's 1/8 inch or 3/16 thick, I can't remember. But normally I would just use a cutoff wheel or something like that, but this whole garage is like a bunch of wood in here, and I don't feel like lighting the place on fire with sparks or something. So I started cutting it with a little bit of a hacksaw, but that was, yeah, that was not good. So I've got my Sawzall out with a metal blade on there, and we're just going to cut it with that. It's going to take a little longer. It's not as fun because you don't get the sparks and everything, but at least it won't light us on fire here. Okay, so now we're obviously back at the boat, and what I'm doing, this is I'm in the cockpit here. It's the center frame and the side frame over here, and I'm trying to fit this angle, which is going to be the lower part of a bracket. It's going to attach this piece to this piece. Alright, so now that I got you under here, you can see these are the bolts that, I'm not going to put it in all the way because it's a pretty tight fit, but these three holes here where the bolts went all the way through and then bolted up on the other side. And that's what I didn't like. Really relied on this hole right here that's just drilled in wood through three pieces of wood. And if that ever wore, this whole thing could move around. The other thing I'd have to do is behind this piece where I'm putting this washer right now, that's where I'd have to put a shim, and I'd have to get it all the way up into here. And that just wasn't happening. I'd have to do it for each of these bolts. And they were all a little bit different size because the thing isn't exactly perfect match here. So it was making for a real difficult design. Wasn't working. So my plan is to take, sorry for the movement, I don't really have a good tripod going on, but this bracket is going to go kind of in here. But I'm going to have to notch out this piece of wood that it's sitting on right now because it has to sit back on the piece behind it. It's on the side frame. Alright, so now that center frame piece is out of here, you can kind of see a little better what I'm actually contemplating here of doing. So this is that angle bracket, and I currently have it clamped on down below here. You can't see it. But this has to screw onto this piece of wood, which is epoxy and screwed onto this whole side frame. So underneath here, there's probably that much beef of wood that I can actually screw into. So it's I can put some pretty hefty screws in there. The The thing about this board is the whole center frame rests on the board. I don't really want it resting on this angle here. I want it resting on the board. And this is just to keep it from moving around, to clamp it in position. So it's slightly lower here, probably an 1/8 inch or so. I don't know how low I'm actually going to go with it, but it's got to be lower than this. I don't want the weight on this, I want it on this. This angle here is going to sit probably about in this area right here. I'll cut it right there, a little bit long on each side. And this will be screwed in this way into the actual centerpiece that drops down in here. And then it'll be bolted. It'll be bolted together right here. So this will be permanently attached to the center frame. And then when I put the center frame in, it'll drop in. I'll line up all these holes and bolt it all together. And that's what will keep it from moving in this direction, and in this direction. So that's the idea. So say last time I was here, I cut the notch for the bracket on that end over there, closest to the camera. And today I'm going to cut the notch out of this side. Once I cut this notch here, then we'll bring the whole assembly out back here in the cockpit and try to fit up the brackets and get that going. Alright, so that's going to take care of the main part of the cutting. Now, this area, just like that side, the blade tends to rise up as you go through, so it's a little bit higher over here than I want it. Not as bad as that side, actually. But I'll just go along with this and get the really high spots down first, and then I'll just go over with my sanding block with 80 grit paper on there. And that should even it out. Then I'll round all these edges over here, and that should be it. I'm not going to film any of that, but yeah, that should do it, and then we'll try fitting it in the back there. Okay, now it's basically all sanded, rounded off. It's looking pretty good. I'm liking what I'm seeing. Okay, so basically I had the thing all right where I want it now. Got some shims on the ends to kind of hold it in place. But that's basically how it's got to go. So I set the marked screws, take things off. I'll bring all these back to my shop and drill all the pilot holes on my drill press. Trying to space this bracket evenly here. Try this again. I've got both pieces in right now. They're not clamped together though. I'm gonna drill pilot holes in all these holes here, and then when I take them off, I'll know where to drill for the screws. That's why I left these holes small. So when I use the same size bit, I'm going to get it in the exact spot that I want it. And I'm not going to have to try to figure out where the center of the hole is. If the hole is bigger, the size of the screw, it's difficult sometimes to get them all lined up. You might be off a little bit. But this way, I'll just get them right where they're supposed to be. So I'm really only drilling just to mark the hole. That's about all I'm doing right now. So I couldn't really film it. It was just too tight to get in here without getting my head in the way. But basically, I drilled all these holes up through both pieces here. I left the spacers in there. They're only a 1/16 of an inch. So if it doesn't pull together by torquing the bolts later on, I'll just put little spacers in there or something. But they're easy to put spacers in those areas. So anyways, that's it for this bracket. Probably just drill out these holes that I already drilled once. Just drill those with a taper bit and set. So once it hits this little thing right here, this little collar countersink, that's when I know I've gone deep enough. And get this camera set up. It's not easy. Hopefully you stay in position there. Oh, one of them dropped right in, this one here. But I'm still going to run a file up through. Now the bolts I'm putting in are they're just regular steel bolts. They're not stainless steel. I'm going to get some stainless steel ones when I put it in for the final time, but for right now, okay, because I'm going to, I'll just order them all at once instead of trying to order a whole bunch of 2 here, 2 there. So that's it. I'll just get some wrenches on there, tighten these up, and that'll be good to go on this side. Okay, so there it is. The fuel is out of the fuel tanks. 90 gallons of bad fuel. That is going to be a nice hit to the wallet, but it's a good feeling that that is out of there. And now it's up to me to get the tanks out of there at some point. Not really ready to do it, but it is a nice feeling to have that out of there and be able to move on, not be relying on somebody else to do something before I can move on. So now it's up to me. So, good news. Alright, well, that's going to do it for this episode. Hope you enjoyed the episode more than I enjoyed having to do that over again. But, hey, no regrets. It's worked out great. I've had that thing in and out many times, no messing with shims. Just put it in, line things up, and it's good to go. So, really happy with it, and glad I took the time to actually do it. So, next episode, we'll get back into finishing off those aft hatches, at least good enough to get them in and looking somewhat tidy. So, until then, have a good one, and we'll see you really soon right here on Renovation Sportfish.